Hi guys, it's Kelly, and I am here today with the last 4 books I read and my reviews on them. And let me just say that kids make it really hard to booktube. So this morning I had dropped my 3-year-old off at preschool, and my baby was pretty tired looking, so I was like, well, I'll just drive around the block, get her really asleep, and then park and film. So I did that. I drove around a little bit. She wasn't making a sound. I parked. I got everything adjusted, got it all perfect, made sure there wasn't too much sun coming in, everything. And she just cried and cried. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to the coffee shop and have a little tea and then get her tired and everything, and then try it again. Drive to the coffee shop. She falls asleep in the 2 minutes it takes to get to the coffee shop. So this is not the best with the light streaming in, so I apologize, but this is what we get. I tried it. You do what the baby wants you to do. I guess that's what happens. So anyways, I have 4 books that I'm going to review. I've had a pretty good reading time in the last couple weeks, so my lowest score rated book is a 3.5, which is pretty good. It was a book I actually really did enjoy. It just wasn't quite to a 4-star for me, and that book was This Shattered World by Amie Kaufman and Megan Spooner. And this is the second book in the Starborn trilogy. The first one was These Broken Stars, which I had read I think a month ago. All of these are kind of separate stories that weave together, but I'll tell you the basic plot and it won't spoil you for the first one because it's 2 different characters. So this one takes place on a planet that is being terraformed. So this is in the future, and so they're taking planets and turning them into livable spaces for humans. And this one has kind of stalled in its terraforming, so it is still livable for humans, but it's not growing and becoming a thriving planet. And so there's some conflict and war going on between the government has sent soldiers to help with the locals that live, the colonists that started the planet, and there's the corporations involved and all this stuff. So it's a lot of politics and war going on. And the 2 main characters, one is a rebel for the colonists and the other one is a soldier for the government, and so they're at odds with each other. And there's all this I capture you and take you to my area, and then I escape, and then I capture you and take you to my area. There's so much I capture you, I go back and forth. And I understand that they needed to do a little bit of that to move the plot along, but it was a lot of back and forth, and I'm like, well, who's being captured by who at this point? And what side are we on? So that is why I didn't give this a higher rating, because I felt like the plot got a little confusing, especially towards the first half when it was a lot of back and forth. It did by the second half. We got a more firm grip on what is going on, and it seemed more forward motion happening, so that got better. And I did listen to this. Sorry, there's a bus or something backing up, so we get the little beeping. I did listen to this on audiobook like I did the first one, and I enjoy the audiobooks because they are dual narrators. So the guy's part has a guy narrator and the girl's part has a girl narrator, and then there's also this intermediary part for each of the chapters it's happening in all 3 books, and that has a separate narrator. So the narrators for this are Callard Harris, Donabella Mortal, and Lincoln Hope, and they all did an excellent job. I liked the distinct narration. I really liked the in-between parts on this one, because the in-between little chapters are different for each of the trilogy, and this one, the audiobook made them really creepy, the in-between sections to listen to, where I think if you were reading it you wouldn't find them necessarily as creepy, but it was the way the guy's voice was, and they had background noise that when I listened to it at night, I'm like, ooh, this is kind of freaky. But the story in general is not scary. It's just this little section, the way they did it had this creepy factor. So the things I did like about this book that makes it kind of stand out was that this one had a lot more action than the first book. I felt like the first book was pretty slow moving and focused a lot on the romance so the plot wasn't really like heavy with action, where this one was definitely like war zone, really heavy on the politics and the action happening, and then the romance kind of taken a secondary role, which was entertaining, and I did like that they kind of moved it along in the second book to get us to the third a little faster paced. So that's everything for that book. And then I had 2 4-star reads, so I'll just do them in the order I read them. And the first 4-star read I read was The Great Hunt by Wendy Higgins. I heard about this from Murphy Napier's channel, and she really enjoys this book, both from the duology, and I did find it really entertaining, hence the 4 stars. It's about this Princess Arity, who her and her kingdom are being kind of assaulted by a beast that has been going around and killing people, and finally the king is like, we need to put a stop to this, so he invites any hunters from all of the lands around them and his own to come and kill the beast, and whoever kills this beast gets to marry his daughter, the princess, which obviously means that you would be able to rule the the land when she becomes queen someday, since she's the oldest. And so, like, obviously all these hunters come to try to kill the beast. And I really liked how the main character, a lot of times when a king is like forcing his child to marry somebody or whatever for political gain or for the kingdom, usually the child is like trying to rebel against this. But I liked how Arity she's a very strong female character, and she's like, I'm going to be queen someday, and I need to do what's right for my kingdom, and people are dying, and so I need to sacrifice my happiness in marriage in order to save my people. And so she goes along with the hunt, and not that she's happy about losing, marriage by love, but she is making that sacrifice in a strong way for her people. And so I really enjoy her as a character and the way her story goes through the whole book. And the plot does move really quickly because we have all those kind of this beast coming and attacking people, and we get to join in with the hunters and see the hunt each night and how they try to find the weaknesses of the beast and all that. And so it moves really quickly, so I enjoyed it. This is also very heavy on the romance, but it still isn't like a fast romance. I wouldn't call it like instant love. It takes a long time to kind of develop, but it's definitely present all the time throughout the book. So if you don't like a heavy romance in your fantasy books, then you probably won't like this one. I feel like it is very similar to These Broken Stars in that way, that it is both a fantasy but really a romance as well. And since this is a duology, I feel like the end of this really left us wanting more from it, so I am definitely wanting to read the second book. Sometimes I feel like in a duology, the first book is written and then they're like, oh, I have more to say, so I'm going to write a second book. But this one is definitely written purposely to lead to more happening. And so I enjoyed the ending, but then I also know that there is more to come and I want to read the next book. And then the next 4-star read is Baby Doll by Holly Overton. And the problem with this is that when I was thinking about what to rate this book, I had to set aside my expectations to give it a 4 stars. I almost gave it a 3. And the reason is that this is marketed as a thriller, and I don't think it should be marketed as a thriller. So this story is about this woman, Lily, who she was captured and kidnapped when she was 16 years old, and she'd been held captive for 8 years. And the beginning of this book is her finding a way to escape from this captivity and her kidnapper. And the story is what happens after she escapes. And I think that it was marketed as a thriller just because there's not where else do you fit it in when it's about a kidnapping story. But it is not thrilling. A thriller usually has a lot happening along the way that is gripping you, and scary things are happening, or big action items are happening or a reveal or twist. And this is not like that. This is more like a character study or like a story about this woman's life after she escapes. And so it doesn't have those like high tension action moments. And I think if you go in with the expectation that this is a thriller and you're going to be like thrilled along the way, that you would review it lower. And so that's why I had to really think about it afterwards when I was about to give it a 3. I'm like, you know, if I just take away my thought of this as a thriller, then it is a really good story. Like, I really enjoyed seeing what happens next. It's like when you watch a movie and you have the happy ending and you want to be like, well, what happens after the happy ending? Like, what happens after Cinderella, you know, marries her prince? What happens afterwards? And this is the story of what happens afterwards. And, you know, there's a lot of grief and sadness and, like, family moments of her being reunited. And how do you reassimilate? You've lost, like, she's lost her innocence and her like teenage years, her ability, you know, like finishing school and that time that she would normally be in college and trying to discover who she is. She's lost all that, so she has to kind of start over again with all this baggage of being abused and being kidnapped, and like there's a lot of other family things going on at the same time too. And a lot of things have happened while she's gone. You know, she's missed a lot of what's happened in her family. And so I thought it was a really compelling story. I read it very quickly because I was interested the whole time. I just don't find it thrilling. And we did hear, maybe people thought I was say it as a thriller because we do hear from the kidnapper's point of view as well. But I don't find that to be like thrilling. I just find it to be part of the story. This does have different perspectives. There's 4 different people that we're hearing from. So if you're not someone that likes different perspective books, this may not be for you because we hear evenly from all 4 characters. But I really do enjoy this. If you are someone that wants to know what happens next in stories, I thought it was a really good read. Just take away the thought of it being a thriller and you'll be okay. Because this does get lower ratings on like Goodreads. And when I read those reviews, a lot of people complained because of their expectations. So I don't think it's about the book. Like, I thought the book was well done. It's just battling those expectations. And then my 5-star read for these last couple weeks was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. And this is a psychological thriller. I read this on ebook and it's really short. Like, I think the physical book's only like 200 pages. And, you know, obviously I read it on my phone and I think I read it in like a day, maybe a day and a half. It went so fast, and it's one of those that like you want to know what happens next, so like I couldn't put it down once I started it really, and that's why I read it so quickly. And this, I can't really give you a synopsis of this book. I had added this to my like Halloween reads, and I said that as well on there, because I think that when you give a synopsis of such a short book, it gives away a lot of like what happens. So like when, like in his actual synopsis on the physical books, it says, all it says in the description is, you will be scared, but you won't know why. And I think that is a really good synopsis of this book. If you want something that will be like kind of keeping you like thinking and keeping you kind of uneasy the whole time and a little scared, then this is a good book for you without even knowing the synopsis. I mean, if you want like a basic, there is a lot of like talking between 2 characters, but I can't even tell you like where they go and what they do because I think that gives away some of the power of the story. You just need to follow along with what they are doing. And it's just like he had this the author had this amazing ability to create such a kind of atmosphere in this story when a lot of times it's just dialogue happening and not like there's no like jump scares or anything like that, so it's not like a horror, but there's just enough like creepiness and like the way the characters just seem a bit off that you are like, something is going on. And I just felt uneasy the whole time reading it. What I loved about this book is that it really stayed with me. Sometimes, you know, you read a book, you put it aside, and you never think about it again. But sometimes when, like, this was, like, a creepy enough read that things kept popping up in my head, like, a week later, that I was like, whew, that just gave me, like, a little chill, because it reminded me of this story. And, like I said, it's not, like, gory. There's not, like, a lot of, like, real jumping out or, like, scary moments. It's just enough of a chilling atmosphere, creepy story that it really got me hooked. And this one also has like really mixed reviews on Goodreads. People are polarized by this because a lot of people don't like the ending. I actually loved the ending, and I guessed it early on, but like it didn't matter that I guessed it because it like pulled me in, and I wanted to see how he got to the ending and how we were going to find out. And I just felt like he created a genius story the way he brought everything together. And so I really enjoyed it. And some people were confused by the ending. If you are, there's lots of like forums that talk about it and discuss it, so you could always like check one when you're done if you do feel confused. But I thought it was well done the way he put it all together, and found it a really like good October read. So those are my 4 books that I read. It sounds like Eliza has woken up, so I guess we can go and have our caffeine now. So I will see you guys next time I read a few books. Bye!